Hello you! You can now get yourself a Hello You mug, and lots of other cool swag at the Geekism official store. Look good and support the channel at the same time. You'll find the link in the description. Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Planet Coaster on a Monday. Pinewood Hills, what on earth is happening to you, Jonty? I know that's what you're all saying, so don't worry about it. You don't have to send me any emails. I'll explain why in just a moment, but first of all, if you enjoy this video, please let me know by clicking on the like button. And if you're new here and you'd like to see lots more creative gaming for grown-ups, all you have to do is click subscribe. So a couple of things. First of all, yeah, it's on a Monday. We didn't get one out on Friday. Something came up and it's basically my video day, the day I sit down to record, was unable to be a video day this week, and it wasn't due to the Alton Towers meetup. I'd planned that as well, something that kind of came at me from a sideline, some personal stuff, but it meant that I haven't really been able to get my regular videos out, so there's been a couple of days where there's been nothing, and this is late, and I'm sorry, but hopefully we'll get back to normal now. And also we've got Jurassic World Evolution coming out. Unfortunately, I wasn't given early access, so I'll be a little bit late to the party on Jurassic World Evolution. Hopefully episode 1 should come out some point late on Wednesday. That's the plan, because I'm actually away for a couple of days now, doing a couple of park trips. We're going to Thorpe Park and we're going to Chessington World of Adventure, so it's a good reason not to, I'm knocking my microphone, it's a good reason not to play video games is going to theme park, so yeah, looking forward to that. Anyway, let's talk about what we're doing today. I'm calling it 35.5 because it's not really a full video. Again, like I say, I didn't really get my regular time to play the game this week, so this is really just carrying on with the Gulpee area that we started in the last episode. Thank you so much for all the real positive feedback we had on the last episode, by the way. I was a little bit worried because this is a little bit different to what we've been doing in Pinewood. I hope that the lore I gave kind of sort of makes this space work in your eyes, I guess, really, but yeah, it's definitely is a little bit different and a little bit of a different sort of feel and budget and everything like that. But hopefully, like I say, this is something that really does happen in British parks. These sort of big influxes of cash to slightly higher themed areas, usually a lot better themed than anywhere else in the park the kids area is, and that's definitely true of both Alton Towers, I would say, and Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and hopefully Thorpe Park and Chessington will prove me right as well. Like I say, they're both two new parks for me this year, so we'll have a look at what the kiddie area is like there, and we may well end up coming back with some ideas from there to come and place into this area too. This episode was going to be the finish of this, and then also starting work on the two other parts that are going to make up Gulpy Land completely, which is a small kiddie coaster. Haven't decided yet whether we're going to go for like a traditional caterpillar style kiddie coaster or maybe something like a wild mouse. I think would probably work quite well in the area. Again, both sort of cheap off the shelf coasters that they can come and slap some theming onto. That's kind of the feel I'm going to be going for there, so maybe a wild mouse, we'll see. And then also the other thing we're going to be doing is a little bit of an amphitheatre where there's going to be the Gulpee show. That is going to be a show that happens a couple of times a day. A few costume characters come out and sing a few theme songs that the kids will know from the TV shows. So yeah, again, if you didn't see the last episode or you want a little bit of a recap, this area is Gulpy Land, very sort of inspired by the TV IP areas of most theme parks in the UK. Whether or not this happens elsewhere in the world, I'm not sure. But here in the UK, pretty much all the kids' areas in the larger theme parks are themed around an outside IP. So Alton Towers has cBeebies Land, which is the BBC's version, BBC's kids' production, basically. Nickelodeon Land is at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. There's also a Peppa Pig Land, there's a Thomas Land, as in Thomas the Tank Engine. There's an Angry Birds area at Lightwater Valley. They often, pretty much all of them have at some point, some scale at least, a sort of themed area. So here we've gone for the idea that Gulpee is this large character, a little bit like Mooby the calf. Thank you, the person who told me that the Mooby was the name I was looking for, which is the character in Dogma. A bit like Barney the dinosaur, you know, maybe started off as a drinks character, you know, but then got its own TV show. Turned out it was actually pretty good and has now become a bigger conglomerate of different shows. The Gulpee Network goes out there, and there's Gulpee TV itself, and then all the other in-game characters that we're basing these around that will probably have as costume characters on the stage, or maybe even just walking around the area. So here, this is Captain Lockjaw's ride, so we're going to have a Captain Lockjaw, and we built Granny Nosewax in the last one, which is based around the witch animatronic in the game. And then the other ride we're going to do is Miss Ellie's, which is going to be a waltzers, and we'll go over that a little bit in a while, because that is going to be a little bit different to the sort of higher themed areas we've got here. So here we are working on the pirate area. I wanted these sort of pirate fences One thing I noticed from Lightwater Valley that has a lovely little pirate area that's kind of theming on a budget, and pretty much pirate equals wood and rope, and that's kind of what I wanted to go for here. So we've got lots of wooden fences, lots of rope pieces, and then a little bit of theming there with a shack and a mast. But again, it's just wood, just wooden structures. Although it looks pretty large, these wouldn't have been too expensive to put up. So that's kind of the feel I'm going for here. And then we're calling it the Captain Longsword Shanty Shacks. I think we actually moved this sign to somewhere else in the end, to be honest with you. One thing I'm struggling with is getting people over here. There's nobody turning up in this area at all at the moment. The flat rides just obviously aren't a big enough draw. Obviously, hopefully, once we get the Gulpy coaster, which is going to be the sort of, big set piece of the area, it'll get some people moving up this area past Master Bandit's awesome 70s expansion up into here, because at the moment they kind of get up to the arrow and stop, so really we want to give them a reason to head further up. And this game, basically that means a coaster. There are a few flat track rides get people over very well. They sort of really love the track rides, especially probably the new studios rides as well. Always seems like the newest additions, they sort of pump the numbers up a little bit to get people over to them. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's anecdotally that's what I've noticed. And yeah, so hopefully the coaster will get people over to here. Again, lots of seating, as somebody pointed out in the comments of the last episode. There will be lots of seating in this area for parents who are letting their kids queue up. So slightly older kids who can queue on their own, but obviously still have parents to show them into the park. Or maybe, a couple, a mother and father, or a couple with a couple of kids. One slightly older kid who can go on the rides, and then a baby in arms, and the mum or dad will sit out and maybe set the kid on the baby on the play area, or just have a little sit with them and a snack or whatever. We're going to be doing both Thorpe Park and Chessington this week with a baby. We're taking Xander with us. Normally, we'll sort of fob him off to a grandparent if we go and do a theme park, but because we're doing both back to back, we kind of want to take him down and make a bit of a trip out of it. So we're going to be looking at using things like parent swapping facilities and stuff like that. But there may well be a time where one of us will go and ride a ride while the other one sort of sits off with the baby and has a bit of a chill out. So with that in mind, there's going to be lots of areas in this space where people can just sort of sit and chill. Right, moving on then to we've realised that we've got a path there, look, that hasn't got the Gulpy Land sign, so we'll stick that down, and then this space in between them kind of screams where the Gulpy statue should go, so he gets pulled round and sort of becomes a set piece on the outside of the area actually, but like a nice welcoming sort of space, nice welcoming structure that you take your photo before you come into the area. So the idea with the waltzers, I'm trying to think what they're called in the games, spinny chair or something, I can't remember what they actually call it, but they're not waltzers, but they're very similar. They're more of an American style version of waltzers. Now waltzers, very common fairground ride here in the UK. They use these sort of spinny chairs, usually more of them to be fair. Usually more of the actual chairs, that is, and they're pretty much always covered as well. I've very rarely seen a waltzers that's open. So I wanted to try and get that across here and make this look a little bit more like a waltzers as opposed to the whatever ride it's meant to look like, which, like I say, I did a bit of research, I've obviously forgotten there, but I'm pretty sure I remember it being an American style flat ride. But I wanted to make it look like waltzers. The idea here is that it's going to be repurposed. Maybe it was somewhere else in the park, maybe it was in the 70s area, the 60s area, maybe even in the original. Waltzers are pretty old school ride, but they've moved it over here and tried their best to sort of theme it up a little to fit in with Gulpy Land. Again, although we are going slightly higher theming in this area, slightly higher budget, there is still a budget, and that's going to be something that they take into account. So here I thought it'd be a good idea to bring this over and lightly theme it so that it's kind of American-y and suitable for Miss Ellie, who is a cowgirl, obviously. So again, it gives us an opportunity to use some of the slightly stylized scenery pieces that we wouldn't maybe be able to get use of otherwise, which is pretty good. So that's kind of the idea here, and obviously I really wanted it covered up, and so that's something we get to do as well, which is make a custom roof, which is something we haven't done for ages. And I remember talking to Uthris, who I'm very glad to see back into Planco for now, playing Alpine Odyssey, and talking to him about park counts and how ridiculously low my park count in this park was compared to his. And although he does go very high detail with things like custom wall pieces and things like that, he uses a lot of like wall sets, I guess, almost, where he makes a whole set of walls that you can sort of copy and paste into buildings, and also pretty much every single building in the park, in his park that is, has a custom roof, which is pretty crazy. I don't think my PC would ever manage with custom roofing on every building. It's starting to struggle a little bit now. You can see the FPS right in the corner of the screen there. I can't see what it is at the moment because it's on a smaller screen while it's playing in Adobe Premiere while I'm recording this overview. But it's around the 20s for the most part, I think. So it's not unplayable, but it's obviously, you know, frame rate is noticeable. So for things like custom roofs, they're kind of out, at least for the majority. But there's one thing you can't really do very well with the in-game roof pieces, and that is a sort of pagoda or rotunda style roof, which is something that you very often see in parks, especially to cover flats, especially in the UK where we have very miserable weather. It's not very often that you see a flat completely open, and like I say, of course, waltzers are very much undercover pretty much always. I'd be interested to see if there's any waltzers that aren't undercover, kind of like the flat that they built here in the game. Excuse me, just taking a quick sip of my drink because it is incredibly warm here today. I hope you're having nice weather where you are. We are having a lovely extended summer here in the UK. We've had about a month now of really glorious weather, and it makes a change from the 2 days of sun that we normally get that we can class as summer. So we are having a real good run of it the other day. Went to Alton Towers the other day as the Geektacular, the Geekism meetup. It was really nice to meet a few of you. Thank you so much for those who made the journey to come out. Some of them from quite further afield, actually. I assumed that it would be people from the sort of Stoke and the Midlands who would make it out, but we had people from Belfast, we had people from Bristol. We had people from all over the place, so it was really great to see people travelling out and meeting up, and not only just to sort of meet me, and that's something I really didn't want people to sort of do, was come to meet me. You know, everyone got on really well, and a few times during the day I just sort of sat back and looked at all these people who were getting on, who all had a common interest, which was geekism, but you know, still just able to have a chat and just enjoy each other's company and enjoy each other's company on the rides. It was for a couple of people. It was their first credit on Wicker Man, which was awesome to get their sort of initial impressions. We had a crazy day on Wicker Man. The ride itself ran fantastically, but the pre-show was all over the place. First time the pre-show ran perfect, so that was great for the new riders. Got to see the pre-show in all its glory, possibly the best pre-show in the UK. Second time though, there was a huge malfunction, so I don't want to spoil it if you've not seen it. I'll leave it as a surprise. It was a huge malfunction, so it really messed up. And then later in the day, in attempting to fix that malfunction, they basically reversed it and created a different malfunction. So it was really interesting to see different ways that thing can go wrong, and it made me think that maybe not in this park because of the budget, but in Geekism Studios, for instance, if we work on pre-show, it may well be worth looking at maybe creating 2 pre-shows. Obviously, you know, as the game systems work, only one of them will be accessible through the queue system in the game. But the idea of having 2 pre-shows that people can, not only does it help throughput, also if one of them goes down, then there's another one that you can funnel people into. Because I was talking to one of the ride operatives there, who I know, a friend of mine, and said that. So the only real way that you would fix this is to have a second one that people can use. And he agreed, and obviously that's not something you're going to be able to retrofit in, but yeah, it was interesting anyway. And one thing I can really thank Planet Coaster for is making me notice this kind of stuff more. And I've said this before on videos, when it comes to theme parks, a keen idiot. I've always enjoyed riding roller coasters since I was little. I've ridden roller coasters. I remember Corkscrew being my first upside downy one, and all things like that, and I've always been a big fan of riding them, but I've never really known much more than they're fun to go on, and Planet Coasters really made me sort of sit up and take notice and be a little bit nerdy about them, to be honest. It's fine by me because I love being nerdy about stuff, but I've started to learn the difference between a B&M and a Vekoma, and now I'm really starting to appreciate some of the finer points of roller coasters and theme park design, and all of that then from Planet Coaster making me interested in real parks is then funneling back into Planet Coaster. And even this, our very first park that we made in this game was a little bit lackadaisy and a little bit all over the place, and unfortunately we can't go back to it because the save file was corrupt. But looking back at some of the videos of it, it does really show you sort of how much I've come on, I think, in the game into Pinewood Hills. But even looking back at some of the original Pinewood Hills buildings, there's stuff I would probably do differently now. Even though we try to do things like backstage and things like that, we haven't really given it them as much space as it needs, because backstage in theme parks seems to be pretty huge, really. So it's definitely something we're going to be looking at in the future, especially in studios as well. We're going to be, Geekism Studios, looking at lots of sort of backstage space for the larger show buildings, things like the Subnautica ride and the Evil Genius ride that we're going to start working on very soon. So here we go then, using the old spinny roundy technique. I probably could have done this better, really. I end up doing it bit by bit, and that was mostly because I was a little bit worried about the crash, basically, the crash that you seem to get when you rotate pieces, and I didn't want to do it all in one go and save and crash. So instead I go over and sort of do the beams, and then do the top part, and then do the bottom part, and then duplicate it like that. And it's a very simple building, purposefully simple. I just wanted a big wooden structure that they would put over the top of the waltzers. That there's a little bit of detail in the top there. You know, it's not just a simple shape. You know, a bit of curvature to the top piece there, and we use those sci-fi pieces there to make them look like vents as opposed to using windows. Again, I wanted this to be a real sort of chirpy, cheap build that they can just sort of plonk over the ride and stick some American flags on it and call it an American ride. And that's kind of the idea here with this. It's definitely sort of a light theming compared to the other two that would have been custom built or custom bought in. You know, the whirligig and the I don't even know what it's called, the one with the witch on it with the little drats that fly around. They are both incredibly themed rides, and I think we get away with them in this space. There's not many places they would work, but we kind of get away with them in this area. But they are incredibly themed rides, and therefore come with theme, most likely what most of the IP budget was spent on. But then there was a bit more space, and the powers that be at Pinewood Hills thought, no, do you know what? We can get another ride in here, we can get a bit more throughput, we can get a bit more capacity. Let's drag that old waltzer out that used to be next to the bowling alley, and we'll stick some cacti around it and stick some American flags, and we'll call it Miss Ellie's Ride, you know. And that's exactly what they've done. Alton Towers, when they redid it for cBeebies Land, some of the cBeebies rides were custom, so a lot of the show buildings were custom, but a couple of the rides, the Squirrel Nutty ride was just pretty much repainted to Get Ready, Set, Go, whatever it's called, and Postman Pat ride, I believe before that was just a regular vintage cars ride. So you know, there's precedent here, and it's all little things like this that I feel that really sort of fill out an area and help make it a little bit more believable and a little bit more realistic. Excuse me for drinking, I've got such a dry throat because it's so warm. The last thing we do then, Miss Ellie's Rodeo Whirl. I was going to call it something else, but it was a bit too similar to the spin name that we'd already got for the witches ride. So Rodeo Whirl I felt kind of fit quite nicely, and then again just some light foliage. This foliage here is more to kind of show a bit of overgrowth and a bit of maybe not quite looking after it as much as they could, I guess. And same here with a bit of terrain paint as well. But thank you very much for watching. Really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us a like, it really helps out the channel, and if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Any thoughts, queries or suggestions, you can pop them down in the comments. And if you fancy a chat, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at JohnTSparrow. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.